all the demons quiet. Yeah, we were built to thrive.
Our flagship learning event of EU Islamabad for this year. I am the president of the EU Islamabad chapter. For members who have not been here, there are prospects here, members that have shown interest in joining EU Islamabad. I welcome all of you, as well as our members, to today's learning event. It's one of the events that we've been working on for a while, and if members remember, there was a book that I sent out last year of Helen, who's our speaker today, Ditching Mediocrity. If you all remember, last summer that book was sent out to all of you. She is a great author, a great speaker, a great trainer. I'll let her speak about herself, but we're glad to have her. We've been working on this for a while, and she is one of the most amazing people that I know, and we're glad to have her here amongst us today. It's the first time she's coming to Pakistan. She came on the special, requests from all the three chapters. So she actually has come to Pakistan for the first time, has done Karachi on Monday, then she was in Lahore, and today she's here, and then she's flying back tomorrow. She's actually one of the most sought after trainers right now, and masterclass trainers in the EU network. So we're glad to have her, and thank you everybody for joining us. As you know, EO is all about the learning and growth of the entrepreneur. That's the backbone of what we do. Everything that we do is for the growth of the entrepreneur, you, yourself, and that's why we are here. This is a learning and growing session, and we hope that you would have a lot of takeaways from today's session. I'll hand it over to our worthy learning chair and board member, Mr. Hassan Rizvi.
Thank you, Usman. Thank you, Mr. President. I'm sure people are more anxious to listen to her than to listen to me. But no, this is a truly once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for us, and we're really honored and privileged for you to have joined us today. You saved the best for last. I know we've cracked this joke a few times, but Karachi, Lahore, forget about them. This is where you want to be. But no, I hope we all walk away with something from this session, and I'm sure there will be some takeaways for everyone. But with a loud welcome, let's call on now Helene Smuts. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was an amazing intro. Thanks, guys. I hope I live up to the expectations. I just quickly want to check. Can you hear me if I speak like this, or do you prefer the mic?
Mic.
Prefer the mic. Okay. So, as you know, my name is Helene Smuts, and I am from South Africa, Cape Town. My business is called Credo Growth, and we are a people development consultancy. Our main focus, and a slight obsession of mine, is around developing high-performing teams. But it's with the idea of behavioral psychology. And I know part of high performance is also the systems and all the processes that needs to be in place. But we focus on it from a high-performing, from a behavioral psychology perspective. We do it through leadership development workshops, whether it's in person or online. We've got myself and some of my team are personality profilers. We do individual coaching. So it's really about getting people to work better together, just in a nutshell. But we're not here to talk about my business at all, so I'm not going to bore you any further with that. I really would like to get on the topic of demystifying trust. Now, before I start, I do want to get a sense from the room. How many of you have never broken someone's trust?
You gotta raise hands.
That's the effect that I wanted, just so that you know.
I think this table is good to go.
The second question is, how many of you have never walked away from from a discussion or a conversation feeling slightly embarrassed about how you treated that person? Same response, right? We all do it. The thing is, we don't do it necessarily intentionally. The problem with trust and with respect is it takes so long to build, and so much effort and so much kind of input into a relationship. However, it is lost in seconds. So my aim for today is to get or to give you two tools. The one is more of an awareness tool, and the other one is a very practical tool that you can implement that will increase trust and respect within your businesses, with your leadership teams, within your homes, as a student, so with friends, with peers, with colleagues, all of those things. It's really a tool that you can use wherever it is and with whomever it is that you engage with on a daily basis. I can do an assessment to see who's read the book, but I just want to say to you, if you have read the book, it is 2 of the chapters that's also in the book. So now you get the live version of, I think it's chapter 4 and chapter 10 or something like that. But it's based on that, and I really hope that you will be able to take some practical tools that you can implement. Now, I think the main thing for me is if you can walk away today with these 3 things: increase your influence with any stakeholder that you engage with, strengthen your relationships, and then identify where you, as an individual, and where your business or your family can improve in order to strengthen all of these things. That's my aim for today. And I did have 2 hours, but due to EO Global and a few points that needs to be scored, I now am down to about 1 hour and 15. So we'll see how we go, all right? Is that fine? Now,
you can do 1 hour and 30, that's
1 hour 30. Just a quick thing before we get into the nitty-gritty of stuff. PwC, they did a trust barometer assessment, and they said, from the survey that they've done, and I need you to listen to this, 1 in 3 people do not trust their leader or their manager. 1 in 3. My core team exists of 9 people. That means 3 of them don't trust me if I feel part of the statistic. You know how many people are in your company. You know how many children you have that you are leading. You know how many friends you have that you might be leading without a title. So just think about that statistic, 1 in 3. If we can change that already tonight in this room, you're already better off than what you were just before you walked in here. And then another thing is that Accenture, they said there's 50% increased productivity in high trust companies, as well as 13% fewer sick days. Is sick days a thing in Pakistan?
Yeah.
Is it? I know in South Africa it's a huge thing. So that is quite significant if you can reduce the sick days as well. Now, I think it's crucial that we don't become part of these statistics. And the first thing that I want to do with you is a little activity to introduce the first awareness tool. So I'm going to need you to play with me. I'm going to need you, I'll explain first what we're going to do. You're going to get up and you're going to break into groups of, there are going to be 3 groups. One group's going to be over here, 1 group over there, and 1 group over here. We can aim for about roughly 10 people per group. It doesn't matter who's with who. However, I would love to have a bit of a mix. So I see this amazing table over here. I don't want you to be together. I want you to mix with the other groups. So 1 group right in the middle over there, 1 group's going to be here, and 1 group is going to be here. The moment you're in your group, you have literally 5 seconds. I'm going to push you for time to choose who is going to be the coach of that group. I'll explain the rest later. So for now, get into 3 groups, 10, 11, it doesn't have to be exactly equal, and then quickly choose who's going to be the coach. You can go. Equal in terms of numbers, roughly. Okay, who's your coach? Quick volunteer, okay? Who's the coach here? This one, you're the coach. Okay. I am going to ask the coaches to quickly walk with me to that side. Please don't break down the house while we are away. We're not going to be away for long. Okay, I just need to explain something to them. So stay where you are, don't go sit down. You're going to be very quick and then we'll be back. Okay? All good? Coaches, you can come with me quickly. Okay. Second nemesis. Sri Lanka?
Yeah. Afghanistan.
South Africa.
I know, I can imagine.
Here's how it's going to work. I need 2 people from every group to act as observers, and you can come and stand here behind me. So the first 2 people from every group is come and stand here behind me to be observers. Yeah. So group at the back, 2 people to come to me, please. Okay. Observers, your role is, and you don't have to all move together, okay? You can walk around, spread out as you wish, and when you're tired of the one, then you move to the other one. I just want you to focus on what are the coaches doing, and how are the cricketers reacting to that? So observe a little bit of behavior, okay? That's your role. For the teams, this is where you need to listen. The coaches, you are going to, because of space, I'm going to ask you as the coaches that you are going to rotate. Okay, otherwise it's going to get very chaotic here. But the coaches, you are going to move from one team to another. You're going to have 1 minute with your own team, and then I'm going to be very loud over the speaker, and then you move clockwise to the next team, and then you coach the next team in exactly the same way as what you know what to do. Does that make sense? We're going to do this 3 times so that all of you experience all 3 coaches. And while you guys, you walk around and you observe, and we will chat a little bit later around what happened. Is that clear? Okay. So it's going to get loud in here. You are playing cricket. You all play for Pakistan, but you just play against India. We'll smash them, don't worry. You are playing against Australia, and you guys are playing against New Zealand. You can't play against South Africa because, of course, we'll win. So, yeah, that's who you're playing. And coaches, you only have 1 minute, and then you guys are out on the field again, and you are not doing well as a team. Okay, go.
It's lunch break. We're not doing well as a team, and now
Start now.
It's lunch time.
So guys, I've spent a lot of time with you guys. We trained a lot. We've done smart training. We are in
Strategy, falling the first time. Pretty bad shape, but sorry, it's all mine. And I'm sorry about
Cricketers, I hope you're getting motivated. Yeah, please start.
Alright guys, this is our lunch break. We just played in the first half. We're in bad shape. This is bad. We're in pretty bad shape. We're not doing well, and it's all my fault. I bet you guys now. It's so bad. It's all my fault.
Round, coaches, you can move again. Which team is feeling motivated by now?
One part of
Very bad shape. Pretty bad shape.
team is scored 300.
Pretty bad, and you know what? It's all my fault. I failed you all as a leader. As a leader, I failed you. Please forgive me that you're a mistake. I just have not made the right call.
I mean, what is this about? India.
Your wicket keeping was great. Your fielding, you guys were killing it out there. I'm sorry. I didn't make the right call. I'm responsible. For the reason why you're here. It's not helpful.
No, it's not my fault. I said, you guys are late. Can you sure interrupt? There's something that is not this is more.
Right, guys, I think the coaches have had enough time. You can start. Okay, guys, quick show of hands. What team is extremely motivated? Can I get a quick show of hands? Which team was motivated for the rest of the game? Coaches, you've done a good job. Well done. You all can sit down.
The other one was probably sharing the blame, that we're all in this together and we are both to blame. And the third one put it squarely on the team and he said, not my fault and it's all your stuff. Yeah.
Okay. How did you guys feel?
Demotivated.
Demotivated? Why?
Because, they had nothing to say and they were just blaming us, except for one guy. And but not an encouraging speech from a leader, putting us down, putting himself down, showing how weak he is. At some point, obviously, I also got a bit, put down, laid down that,
Okay.
maybe I'm not performing, and I trusted myself, especially in cricket though. It was pretty demotivating. Yeah, I would say for sure. And no leadership quality from the leaders as well, to be very honest.
Yeah, absolutely. From one of you, I think you were also an observer.
Sorry.
Oh, you were also observer, right? What did you notice?
I just noticed the coaches not really motivating the teams. I mean, especially the one who was very apologetic and he kept on taking the whole blame. So, I mean, that kind of sent a very weak message to the team, I felt.
Did you, guys, just a lot, did you think that the coaches respect themselves?
Yes, I felt that he did not have any faith in himself, which is why the team couldn't really trust him.
Okay. Did he have respect and trust in the team?
I don't think so.
I don't think so. Okay. Thank you. Guys, this is just a little fun activity, first of all, to get you all talking, and just teasing, but also to land the message of trust and respect. Now, I'm going to show to you in the form of a tool what you've just experienced. And this happens in business all the time. It happens in family life, and I'll give myself as an example a little bit later. And it happens even if you are 16, 17, 18 years old. It is around us the whole time, these attitudes that we hold. And the tool that I want to give you is called life positions or life attitudes. And it's by a psychologist called Eric Byrne. And he had founded a theory called transactional analysis in the 1960s. And I'm obsessed with that theory because I think it's so practical. And there's so many leadership tools out there, yet the TA, transactional analysis, has been forgotten and so easy to implement. So basically what this tool says is that we have 4 different positions and 4 different attitudes that we operate from. And you can see there's a minus sign and the plus sign. The minus is not okay, and the plus is okay. That's the language that we use. And the okayness refers to, or the not okayness refers to, how do we see ourselves and other people's innate worth? Not the actions, but how we are seeing ourselves and other people as worthy and as being equal to one another. So it's not about hierarchy. It's not about actions. It's just about how we are treating people and our attitude towards other people, as well as our attitudes towards ourselves. And the 3 unhealthy attitudes you can see is in the corner over there. So the first one is I am not okay, but you are okay. So that's literally where I'm making myself small and I'm looking up to someone and I'm making them bigger than what I feel that I am. Simple example. If you start a sentence with something like, this might be a stupid question, that is a I am not okay, but you are okay attitude to have. Or, actually, I'm not going to give my opinion because I'm amongst my friends and I'm not sure what my friends are going to say, and they're going to think that I said something stupid. That is a I'm not okay, you are okay attitude to have. Does that make sense? Yeah? Who was that in our little cricket scenario? That was Usman. Yeah, that was Usman. Although I think Usman played the "you okay" really well, because it almost sounded motivating. So and you cannot necessarily, if someone operates from "I'm not okay," it's very hard. It's difficult. Like, can you just build up your confidence, please? So people get frustrated with that, and you get frustrated with yourself because eventually you just want to move away from something or from someone. The second unhealthy position is, I am not okay, but guess what? Neither are you. We both basically screwed. So I think that was you.
It's horrible.
What, was it difficult playing that?
Really? Because I'm talking to my team, and they're like, like, what do you mean? Like, you guys are good enough to, what are they saying? You're not going to pay us? I'm like, you guys are for free.
Did you feel why it's possible to go into a depressive state when you're in there? So that is when this state, spend too much time in this state, and that is when we are starting to move into that depression or clinical depression state. Okay. Very difficult to get out of it if you've been there for too long, but we all do spend time there. But hopefully we have the ability to get out of it quickly. Okay. Now, the third unhealthy state, which I often see in business, and I also see it in marriages, I've seen it in my own one, is I am okay, but you are not. I'm better than you. You do not know how to bath the kids. I do it correctly. That kind of vibe. It can also be, if you think about it in terms of teams, I do things better, faster, higher quality. I spot the detail. And then all of a sudden, leaders wondering why they have so much work is because they don't delegate, because they don't trust their team members. So if you think, so many leaders sometimes say to me, yeah, I can't delegate to my team. Like, which attitude are you in? Okay, so there's a little bit of a mirror that we need to hold up as leaders. And when I say leaders, I'm talking leaders in business, I'm talking leaders in terms of your household and the people that you're engaging with in business, and I'm talking leaders as peers and as students. Okay, so that's the three unhealthy positions. The healthy position is I'm okay and you're okay. So that is where you can look at someone and you might not agree with their actions. You might not even agree with their religion. You might not agree with their opinion, but you still treat them as a person with innate worth and as equal as you. So you still treat them with respect. In a team environment, if someone is, for example, late, and I'm talking really late, not Pakistani time late, but if they're late on a regular basis, it doesn't mean that you cannot hold them accountable. It means that you can still address the issue, but you do it in a way that the person still feels like a person afterwards. An example, I could have walked in here today and the venue wasn't set up the way I've wanted it done, okay? How that would look in all four corners. The first one, I'm not okay, so I could say to Assad, I'm going to use you. I could say, oh my goodness, this is such a mess up, I'm so sorry, I should have been in more communication with you. I'm not sure what you're going to do, but you know what, you probably did the right thing, and yeah, I'm so sorry. That's what that sounds like. Terrible, right? The I'm not okay, you're not okay would have sounded something along the lines of, oh, this is such a mess up and the people are going to be in an hour, I don't have time, like this, can you just cancel the event, please? You give up. No, I'm talking in extremes. I'm okay, you're not okay. Sorry, Assad, really? How difficult is it to set up an event? It's not rocket science. You better fix this. Can you hear the attitude and even the tone of voice, the facial expression, the body language, all of those things changes with the different positions that you are in. Yeah. The healthy position would have been, Assad, you know what, I think maybe let's check after the event around the communication, just for learning, because the event hasn't been set up the way I wanted it. but it's fine for now. Let's focus on how we're going to fix it, and then you and I can do a debrief afterwards, because this can't happen again. Easy. I don't have to break his personality down in order to get my message across. Okay, so just to give you a little bit more detail, and I'm literally not going to read all of those things. So by the way, you're going to get the slide deck, so you don't have to worry too much. But you can see that the one area comes from quite a passive role. And then on the opposite side, again, you have an aggressive area. And then the I'm okay, you okay is, you literally, you get on with things, you deal with it. You don't shy away from someone's action that wasn't correct or the mistake. You deal with it, but you deal with it in a way that both of you feel good. And both of you feel that I can trust this person to learn from the mistake. And from the other side is I can trust this person to treat me in a very, very well manner, even though I made a mistake. So I'm okay to make a mistake again, because I know I'm not going to be kind of put to pieces for it. Okay. The one thing that I want you to remember is, regardless of where you're coming from, you sending an invite, and the other person has an opportunity to accept that invite or decline. And the moment you accept the invite, we start playing games. So if I come from I'm not okay, and I say, oh my goodness, how was the talk? I felt so uncomfortable. Did you get value from it? I was so worried. What am I doing? I'm asking for someone to rescue me and say, you know what, it was absolutely fine. And then the person goes, shame, I need to rescue this person, which is also, I'm okay, you're not okay. Like, I need to look after this person because they can't look after themselves. And then we start playing games. So I want you to think about, when you are speaking to someone, where are you coming from and what invitation are you sending? Because if they accept that invitation, then none of you are going to shift. So then you can't be upset if someone treats you badly, if you're asking them to treat you badly. And as a leader, for example, you can't be upset if someone doesn't come up with their own problem solving, if you keep on solving the problems for them. Okay, does that land? Yeah? Any questions before I'm going through this on time? Any questions before I move on, just in terms of the application of this? Yeah.
Is it always desirable to be in the top right slot, or is it one for each occasion? Or
thank you. Very good question. This is situational. Okay, so of course the desire is to be in the top spot. Is it possible to always be there? No, because we're human beings. We get frustrated. So what I want you to do is to think about, what is your default position, and in different scenarios. My default position in my team, and there's no point in me lying and being all like high and mighty around it. I go, I'm okay, you're not okay. Someone makes a mistake, and the first thing that goes through my mind is, are you kidding me? Seriously? Like, how many times must I explain to you how to do this? Do I say that to her? Not necessarily. I calm myself down, and sometimes I do. But I calm myself down and I try to go to I'm okay, you're okay. If I'm with my family, my brothers are 12, 10, and 9 years older than me. Where do you think I go when they say something? I'm not okay, you okay. So all of a sudden I put them on a pedestal and they can say jump, and I will say how high? It's ridiculous how we move in different scenarios. So with this tool, and that's why I'm saying it's an awareness tool, the moment that you feel off-center in a relationship or in a conversation, I want you to think, where are you coming from? So that you can understand what is going on for you, and then you can start thinking in terms of, what is it that I need to do with my language or my attitude towards myself in order to meet the person, and I'm okay, you're okay, even if they might not be in it. So another example is, Usman, if you are speaking to me quite in a bad manner, I'm okay, you're okay response will be something along the lines of, you know what, Usman, I can understand that you're frustrated with me. However, I don't appreciate how you dealt with me or how you spoke to me. And I think we need to speak this through again, because I really value our relationship, but I didn't appreciate that. That takes guts, But that is what I'm okay, you're okay sounds like. It's still addressing the issue. It's not hiding away from the issue, but it's doing it in a way that might feel uncomfortable, but that you show up and you give the opportunity to the other person to show up too. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to ask you to take 3 minutes at your table, and just quickly, and maybe not in the full table, maybe speak about three, as you are sitting in threes, just so that we can go through this a little bit quicker. But say to the person, what is your default position, especially when you're under pressure? And I'm talking now about the negative ones. Which negative is your default position, and what does that look like? So I explained, like when I go into my default position, my eyes get a little bit itchy. I go red in my face, so I can't hide it. People can see it. And my tone of voice, even though I'm trying so hard, my tone of voice becomes harsh. That's what my default position looks like in I'm okay, you're not okay. What it looks like there is I remove myself from the room. I actually walk away when I'm in that negative space. So I want you to identify what is your default, what does it look like, and what is the one thing that you feel that you can do to change that when that happens. So 3 things. So in threes as you are, like take 1 minute per person, and then we're going to move to the next one. Okay? And shout it or let me know if you've got any questions.
What should be for
I think there are 4 points.
you write?
I don't know, I think it's inbuilt. I think
On the top right.
No, the first one is
I'm right. What's your default? What are the
I'm good, you're not.
I'm good, you're not good.
What's up? I'm not good.
Okay, what is that?
I'm good, you're not good. And that one? I'm not good, you're good.
I'm good, you're not good.
No, you're saying I'm not good, and you're good. And this one you're saying I'm good.
The other person sitting in that case good. Here you didn't say that I am good myself.
Can you use that to your stuff?
Okay. Got it. Thank you.
Very easy to
Right. Any realizations or any questions that came up as you were discussing what is your default and hearing from other people what their defaults are? Yeah. Just want to give you the...
Well, we do the corners of our businesses, so we mostly, I think, we are on the right bottom actually. And that's what I noticed that ultimately it is the CEO or the owner of the company who faces, in case of failure, financial loss or embarrassment. So it's not the lower tier of team who faces these two situations. So in that case, when we put our best effort and we don't see the same sense of responsibility or backup from the team, so I think we're on the right.
Thank you. That's a global phenomenon, hey? is, and I'm not saying all CEOs and founders are in the I'm okay, you're not okay quadrant. There are definitely very variants of it. But the one thing that I do want to say to you about your comment is, have any of you heard about Patrick Lencioni? He's an American consultant. But he's got a theory, and it's a theory that I work so often with executive teams and then with their next teams. He's got a theory that's called the 5 dysfunctions of a team. And very quickly, I can go on a different topic around this, but it's vulnerability-based trust is the very foundation of high-performing teams. Then, if there's no trust, there cannot be conflict. And we need conflict. And what I mean by conflict is we need people to have passionate debates, to feel free to have passionate debates without being ridiculed for it. And we need people to be able to stand up and have passionate debates and say when they don't agree with something, or when they're upset about a colleague that hasn't delivered. And because when people can have those passionate debates, they can weigh in, and when they have weighed in, they can commit. Even if the CEO has made a different decision to what their opinion was. But at least they feel that they have weighed into the commitment. And that is then when we get that lack of that extra commitment from our teams. Now this sounds very theoretical, but I've seen it play out in action, where the moment people are weighing in, they can buy in, even if it isn't something that they wanted to happen. Patrick Lencioni speak about this thing around, I've heard what you had to say, I've heard what you had to say, and I've heard what you had to say, and I'm at the top here and I need to make a decision, and this is what we're going to go for, and I know you don't agree with me. And what happens is because everyone had the ability to weigh in, they also commit. And then it's not a thing from, oh, I'm going to look at how you fail later. Then it's going to be, you know what? We're in. We're all into this. So what your comment around that makes me think of that, around what are you doing in your families, with your friends, even if you have a working group, and in your teams, in order to get that commitment from people. But to do that, we need the vulnerability-based trust. We need a willingness to share and disagree and weigh in so that we can all commit to that cause of the business. So it sounds, I can send you some more information on that theory if you'd like. Okay. Any other questions or comments? Yeah.
I also feel there's a gendered aspect to this, all these different roles they would play in life. For example, as a woman, I feel in workspaces, even if you're assertive, it's oftentimes taken as being aggressive.
Yes.
Even if you're assertive, and you're just, putting your point of view across, but you're taken as being, oh wow, she's really aggressive. So I feel like there's also that gendered aspect to this whole thing.
I have been on the receiving end of that, and it is currently, and maybe a lot in Pakistan. I'm not sure how things are changing, but it's also happening in South Africa and things like that. That the moment you stand up, that it's kind of you labelled. I do want to say to you that, and this is whether you're a female or a male, is in order to get I'm okay, you're okay really right. And right, I mean, if you want to smooth it over, it's to develop your style of communication. And when I started doing that, and that's why we focus so much on communication skills and leadership, is even as someone who's always seen as aggressive, I could change my style of how I speak so that I don't come up as aggressive but still keep my opinion, if that makes sense. So my suggestion, if you are someone who's seen as aggressive, female or male, is that you then tweak your way of speaking. In fact, in all areas, the fundamental is how you put a sentence together. It sounds so basic, but how you put a sentence together when you need to give feedback to someone. How you put a sentence together when it's a sensitive conversation, or when it's a very tough conversation that you have to have. Because the impression is a tough conversation always comes from I'm okay, you're not okay. It doesn't have to. You can have an extremely tough conversation and still come from that corner, from the I'm okay, you're okay corner. So my suggestion, if that is the case, especially for you, then it's to, it's almost like, like a rough diamond, is to kind of soothe the edges of the diamond in terms of communication. Okay. Any other comments or questions before I move on? So by the way, I'm also going to stay here for dinner, so then there's no, if you have questions, you can always come to me afterwards. Okay, I love this topic, so I can talk about it forever. Okay, all good. I really want you to be aware of this. It's an awareness tool so that you can identify where are you at if you are uncomfortable. Okay, so the thing is, we operate in networks, we have internal teams, we've got friends that we deal with on a daily basis, and in school and in varsity. We've got kind of our children that's speaking to us, we've got businesses that we run, client projects. And if I'm okay, you okay isn't present, and if trust isn't present, we're just waiting to be stabbed in the back. I think, Asad, it reminds me of a conversation we had at lunch in terms of, so I'm not going to tell the whole story, but I don't trust him, or people might go into someone's home and they don't trust the person, and the person who's offering the accommodation also doesn't trust the person who's coming into their house. It's a whole trust balls up. And I'm hoping that this tool that I'm going to give to you now is that it's going to land with you around what you can do, not what you can expect from other people, but that what you can do in order to increase your own trustworthiness. Now, has any of you read the book The Trusted Advisor by David Meister? It is really a good book if you want to read it. If you like a lot of entrepreneurs and you only want to have the shortened version, I'm going to give it to you now. So it's a whole nice thick book, but this is one of the tools that he shows in the book. And it is called the trust equation. So the trust equation is trustworthiness is credibility plus reliability plus intimacy over self-orientation. I'm going to go into detail around it, don't worry. But before I explain what each is, and I know some people go probably sitting here, I know what credibility is, I know what reliability is, but I actually want to give you some input in terms of what it means in terms of trust. But before I do that, just turn to, again, in threes as you are sitting, what do you think is your strongest point in terms of the top three? Is it credibility? Is it reliability? Or intimacy? Based on what you think that means. So I'm not going to explain it now. I first want you to identify what do you think is your strongest point out of those three. Just as you're sitting in the room at the table.
What is the strongest point? You? Reliability. I would say credibility. I don't know.
It's also part of reliability. That's what it's
Right.
Part of it.
Whose strongest point is credibility? Let's have a look. You undecided? So, credibility. Okay. Whose strongest point is reliability. That means on time. No, I'm just teasing.
On time?
And whose strongest point is intimacy? Okay. Right. So I'm going to explain. I'm going to explain to you each one, and I want you to think about the relationships in your life, the different ones, because there's business relationships and there's of course social relationships and there's family relationships. So think about all of those as I go along. And I also want you to think about it in terms of what makes sense within the Pakistani culture. Okay? Because how this is going to be implemented for me as an Afrikaans person in South Africa might look a little bit different as to how it's going to be implemented for you. So please take it in context in terms of what makes sense for you. Okay? So the first one is credibility. Now, the obvious one is that it's about accuracy, right? Is the information that you are giving to someone that you are engaging with, is it accurate? Is it logical? Can the person follow your thought process or follow what you are saying to them? And is it based on facts? How many of you often use words like always, no one, never, everyone, nobody? I see a few smiles in the room. Those aren't facts. They're exaggerations, okay? And when you exaggerate, you impact your credibility in a negative manner. Because all that someone can say, for those who have read chapter 3 or chapter 2, that is the personality profiles. So all the analytical people are going to go, no, I'm not buying what you're saying because it's definitely not everyone. Okay? So that is what I mean by accuracy and facts and logic. It is also about, are you and can people see that you are a content expert? In other words, do you know what you are talking about, or are you waffling? And are you saying, yes, I know for everything? And are you claiming to be an expert and not really, and that you're not really one? But what happens from when we are content experts is we also show people that we actually love our topic. And I think this is the big part that people miss from credibility, is when you love your topic, you are passionate about what you are doing. And the moment someone can see that you are passionate about what you're doing, immediately your credibility increases. Because then they know that you are doing your homework. They can see, they can listen to you and say, even if you ask a question, they can go, you are being curious about the topic, and therefore your credibility also starts to increase. Does that land? In terms of the credibility? It's not just the facts. It's, are you a content expert and are you passionate about your topic? And if you don't know something, are you admitting it? And then also, but hey, I'm actually quite interested. Do you know what the answer is? Because a question like that just means that you're doing even more research. Okay? So, credibility is about the words that we speak. It's what comes out of our mouths. When it's not present, we appear flaky. And I don't know about you, but I certainly don't want someone to say to me, oh, Helene, amazing girl, amazing. But whatever she says, take it with a pinch of salt. That's what happens when your credibility is diluted. So you might be an incredible human being, but people don't trust what you are saying. Therefore, trustworthiness is then affected negatively. So that's the credibility part. Anyone still feel that their credibility is the highest? I don't mean that in a bad way. I really am interested. Your credibility, okay. Didn't you swap now?
I think I'm going to
You also, okay.
Out of the bullet points.
Okay, cool. So that's the credibility part. The next one is reliability. And reliability happens with the amount of interactions that we have with someone. So that's when we can actually count on our judgments. If you don't know whether I'm reliable because you haven't had any engagements with me. Usman, you might know that I'm reliable because I'm always on time for our sessions. But the more you engage with someone, the more you can tell whether someone is reliable, and the more you will make your judgment around that. So it's about how many times you engage with someone, the repeated experiences. So if someone is consistent, then that speaks to their reliability. So if you, for example, a student in class, and you are constantly on time and you deliver all the workbooks and the homework and your assignments and all of those things on time, even your tutor or your teacher or your a lecturer will start realizing that you're actually someone that can be trusted in terms of reliability. The thing is, when something then does happen, when you don't do it, or when you did slip up, you treat someone differently if their reliability is high. If their reliability is high, I might go, sure, something must have happened because this is not how he normally operates. Versus, oh, him again, that's expected. Can you see the different ways of attitude? It might be someone in the same team, but you expect different from the one person versus the other person because of your experience. So when we speak about reliability, we speak about your actions. Can someone trust the actions? Can someone trust the promises that you have made? If reliability is not present, you come across as irresponsible. Again, I also don't want to be seen as irresponsible. It's not nice. So credibility is about the words that you speak. Reliability is about your actions. And now the one where I normally get a lot of eye rolling is intimacy. Now, intimacy is, and I call it professional intimacy, especially in the workplace. Okay? And at home, it's a different form of intimacy. With friends, it's a different. So each area of your life have a different type of intimacy. But in the workplace, we call it professional intimacy, or as a student within the universities, wherever it might be. And that is whether you are sharing certain things beyond the scope of work. I come across many people, and I count myself into that as well. We're very task-focused and very task-orientated. Especially so we're so rushed, so when we get to see someone, we jump straight into the conversation about what needs to happen. If it's someone that you respect highly, you might all of a sudden start first asking about their family, how things are going. But if you're in business and someone needs to do something, you don't necessarily share beyond the scope of work. You just get down to business or operations. So many people say, yeah, okay, but I don't cry easily. It's not about crying. It's not about how many times you can cry and how loud you can cry. It is about sharing something that you normally wouldn't share. For the EO guys, you know about the 5%. Okay, we can't go 5% with every single person that we engage with. But it is about going a little bit further than what is the task at hand. As an example, in the workplace, it might be with your fellow board members. It's even acknowledging that you are really struggling with a decision, or you don't actually know what to do. Like, I'm actually quite nervous about this decision. I don't know whether we should merge or whether we shouldn't merge. Even that sharing is a form of intimacy. You can always, of course, go a little bit deeper into intimacy and start sharing things about your feelings and what's going on within your family. Again, it's not necessarily only crying and all your deepest, darkest secrets, but it's sharing beyond what you normally would do. Brené Brown, I don't know if you know who Brené Brown is. She had a TED talk, it's worth watching, The Power of Vulnerability. And I watched the interview with Brené Brown, and in the interview she said that what we do is when it comes to intimacy, which helps with vulnerability-based trust, which is the foundation of the high-performing teams that we need, we tend to armor up because we need to be seen as strong and we need to be seen as always okay. And what she is saying is, instead of armoring up, the moment that you are uncomfortable or you feel that, ooh, I shouldn't share this, that's exactly when you need to share what it is that's going on for you. So it's about leaning in instead of tapping out. If you want to build trustworthy relationships, intimacy is needed, and you're going to need to take the first step, and that means taking the risk. Because I might want to build a trustworthy relationship with you, and I might share something with you, and I'm taking the risk because you might not share something back. And you need to be okay with that. But what I've now done is I've showed you that I am comfortable with us as in a professional relationship or whatever it might be, and I feel safe enough to share something. And maybe the second or the third engagement afterwards, then you might start sharing something, and then already the relationship and the trustworthiness is at a different level. Usman?
But this, the point where you decide you want to be intimate is really important.
Yeah.
Because if you choose the wrong time, you may be exploited at some later stage. Like, for example, if I'm talking to a client of mine and I say, hey, you know what, my machines are not working properly, and they might delay the order. You know, hey, it happens sometimes.
Yeah.
I'm giving him my vulnerability, but later on, they sometimes use that against you when maybe you're not even wrong. And they might say, hey, you know, you said your machines are not wrong, so hey, you messed up my product, and maybe I've not even messed it up.
100%. So I think the big thing to understand about intimacy is not necessarily to divulge everything to your client. So if you don't necessarily want to share something about your machinery that might impact the flow of work or an order, it's about finding something else that you can be intimate about. I'll give you an example. I had a client that had a photo of him and his son fishing behind his desk. He didn't speak about it, but I saw it. And eventually, a few weeks later, I saw an article around the impact of global warming on fishing. It's a very silly thing, but I actually sent him the article and I said, hey, I saw the picture of your son behind your desk, and I thought of you, and you might find this interesting. It doesn't sound intimate, but that is me. I don't know what that picture means to him. There might be kind of animosity behind that picture or whatever, but it is me saying, I was thinking of you beyond the scope of work. Does that make sense? So another example is me sending flowers to someone in a different culture when I don't know whether flowers is accepted or not. That is taking a risk in terms of not knowing how it's going to be received. Does that land? Okay. So intimacy is, I feel that there's personal security within this relationship and I can share certain things with you. Doesn't always have to be about the machinery, but it might even be like, I am so frustrated about the fact that something is going on in the sports that you love. Again, it's just something more higher than work. Okay? But when intimacy is not present, we come across as cold and as aloof. And that also impacts trustworthiness. So it's credibility, intimacy, or credibility, reliability, and intimacy. Who feels that their top one has changed? I know you went from intimacy to also credibility. Is it still intimacy? Okay?
Yeah, I thought I was reliable, but now suddenly I thought I was credible, but now I think I'm reliable.
So you're fantastic then, if you're credible, reliable, and intimate.
I think I'm credible.
Not credible. Okay, so the intimacy has increased for you in terms of how I've explained it. Anyone else that has shifted?
I think I've shifted more to this, but this is something that I've recently been not experimenting with.
But by default, within the organization, and I'm talking about emotional vulnerability, not operational vulnerability. So, not the business weaknesses, but my own weaknesses. Started to recognize that within the workplace, and then also sharing that with my subordinates or my people my colleagues. And that's actually helped because I don't know everything, and I need them to assist and help and take me forward. And I think I've shifted now from reliability to intimacy. Yeah.
I like how you describe it, emotional vulnerability, not operational vulnerability. And you can start with the emotional vulnerability to get used to the intimacy part. I think that's a great one. Just one comment, especially if you are leading friends, leading children, and leading team members. If we are not vulnerable, then they are not able to be vulnerable and they can't admit mistakes. And then they start hiding mistakes. And then they start lying as an extreme. But if you are able to also admit that, you know what, I messed up, and you don't freak out about it, but you go, I messed up and this is how I'm going to change it. That is what they see then, and that is then what they start to mimic. I've seen it in my own team. I'm such a driver if you think about the personality styles, and I'm okay, you're not okay. And only recently did I start really admitting to every single thing that's going on for me. And how Janine, my 2IC, has changed in terms of how all of a sudden she takes ownership for stuff is amazing. Like, I should have done this ages ago. So just all of a sudden the willingness for the rest of the team members to also show up and say, hey, I didn't do this, or hey, I need help. I see you nodding. Do you experience the same?
Exactly, actually. About a year ago, I went through the same thing. So before, I used to try to incentivize the employees to sort of, to get more work done with them. When I started having discussions with them, I would put forward our company's vulnerabilities, and I started using the term family, except for team or workplace, and that really changed how they behave. And I know for a fact that, like how in this culture, a lot of people try to bribe their employees or, to get, for us to do a transaction with them. And I could see that they would force me previously to try to make a deal or try to motivate me towards a certain thing. And after I started using the term family, I take them into account and I have them. So I get all my team and I ask everybody advice before we're about to take any decision. And once the sense of ownership is there, it is completely changed. Before, if I was in Islamabad and my work was in Peshawar, I couldn't stay more than 1 or 2 days in Peshawar. I had to go back. Now I've been here for 15 days, and the work is amazing. So, and I love the fact that we can connect. So I speak to them about their families and everything, and it's even beyond business. For me, it's a really good feeling that my team, my guys are taking ownership and they're taking it like a family thing. Yeah. And that's really, even besides the fact that they're actually hitting targets, it's a really good feeling for me,
Yeah.
So yeah, I completely agree with that.
It speaks again to because you said that they can discuss things and they can actually, you ask their opinions and they can weigh in, and that goes back into the committing. Even if they don't agree, even if they do want to take the bribe, but now they're committed to the...
Usually now when I'm taking a decision, I ask them, and I'm like, this is your decision. You tell me what we're going to do now.
Yeah.
And I'm going to hold you responsible for the decision. And they take it.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. So trustworthiness at play, right?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. So credibility, reliability, intimacy. Dave Meister has done some research. It's better to develop all three than to hone in on one. Because again, if you are reliable and credible, if you're reliable and intimate with someone, you might be known as the fun guy, but don't trust what the person is saying. If you're not reliable, then you might be, wow, that person knows his job or her job inside out. Oh, but goodness, don't try and set up a meeting with that person who's going to waste your time. Or it can be, yeah, no, it's a great person, but he keeps to himself, so don't even bother to invite him to the event. He's not going to really rock up. It's, you or she, they don't really engage with other people. So that is kind of what happens when we don't focus on all of those things. So don't develop only one. Develop all three at the same time. So they all need to be high. Scale of 0 to 10, think 8, 9. It's almost impossible to always be everything. But that is what we need to aim for in terms of building up credibility. And just because you are studying towards something doesn't mean you are not credible. Because you are busy building your research capacity. You are busy learning about a topic, and that also speaks to credibility. Okay. So the last one on the trust equation is the self-interest. And that is at the bottom of the line. I don't know if you remember. And the self-interest, if that is high, that is next to be lower. And if I say lower, I mean about 3 or 4, if again out of a score of 10. The reason why I'm saying this is because you need to have skin in the game. Otherwise, you're just going to give up. And it's like, I'm bored with this does nothing for me. But basically what self-interest is when you are focused on your own agenda, when you have something that you know that you are going to get from it and you're going to benefit, and you're using the other person, or you're abusing the power that the person has and trying to influence, whatever the case might be. But it's about you are being more interested in your own kind of agenda and what you can get from the relationship versus what you both can get from the relationship as a mutual thing. Unfortunately, often sales guys are immediately seen as someone who has a lot of self-interest because we say, oh, they're just after the commission. But that's a stereotype thing. But if you can show up in a way that it is like, hey, I'm in this, and yes, of course I'm going to get something from this, but I'm in this because I know for both of us, we are going to make an amazing product together, or we're going to be great in business together, or I do need something from you, and you're quite transparent around it. That is also a low self-interest. If you're saying, you know, I really need your help, I know I haven't spoken to you in a while, and I'm really sorry, but I do need your help. That is transparency around the self-interest part. So, if you have self-interest, then the people will know, or the person you're engaging with will know that your focus is at the right place, and your intention is in the right space. When it's not there, you come across as devious. Okay? So what I want you to do, again, maybe speak to someone else, get up and just move to the other side of the room, is with the equation, and I'll bring the equation up, is trustworthiness is I can trust what you are saying, I can trust you to do, I can trust that I feel comfortable to discuss, and I can trust that you care about. So those are the four main kind of messages from each one. But just quickly speak to two other people and identify what is your weakest one from all four, and one thing that you can do as of today in order to increase or decrease the self-interest. So what is your weakest one? And if your weakest one is one of the top ones, what can you do to increase the top ones? And if your weakest one is the self-interest, that you're very high at that, what can you do in order to reduce the self-interest? Okay, so just quick one, in threes or in twos, it doesn't really matter. Don't go into fast because then it's going to take too long, but get to speak to someone else, and I'm going to give you 5 minutes for that. Who would like to maybe just share one thing that they are going to do differently from this discussion that you've had? Anyone would like to share an action step that they want to do differently? Do you want to share? Hold on.
So, I talked to you already about this. So,
just share the action of the one that you need to increase and what you're going to do.
Reliability, 100%. Because I'm young and I've done a lot of mistakes on that part. And so for me to grow in that, so this session kind of helps that, like the bullet points you said. And basically in business, especially in Pakistan here, you don't find much people, reliable people, 100%. Like there's some issue, that's not that I shouldn't be like that, right? But in business, you do with them, it's been a long time I've been doing it. So there's some issues in that department, but it's all on you, right? So what you can control, what is the one thing that you can control in your life? It's yourself, right? So that is exactly where I have to focus on.
Right? Awesome. That self-control is called circle of influence. Instead of complaining about something, that you start focusing on doing something about it. Anything from this table? What do you guys focus on? What do you feel that you need to focus on? You said reliability.
I think reliability, because we need to open up more. And that's what I think.
And how would you increase your reliability? What would you do?
I think by opening up more to more people, and I think I should start trusting people more.
Okay, so how will
intimacy. Yes.
And how will trusting people more help you with your intimacy?
Because I would be opening up to them. I'd be showing my weaknesses to them.
So taking the first risk?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think what I find interesting is that you have to also know which of these traits are relevant to the situation you're in. So if someone is looking for intimacy in the workplace, right, then being over-reliable isn't necessarily going to help it. And I think that's the thing, you have to be able to shift gears between these new variables very easily, because everyone has a different expectation in the team from you, and you need to be well-rounded to sort of, be a complete package for everyone.
You also, in the same breath, you also need to understand what do the different relationships look like. And so I've got one relationship. It's a very, very close friend of mine, And my mother-in-law quite recently had a stroke. She's fine. And I'm going to share something intimate. And at that point when I heard it, I was relieved. I was happy, and I was extremely embarrassed about the fact that I was happy that my mother-in-law just had such a massive event in her life. So I'm fine with it now, I've dealt with it, and I'm not happy about that, but that's how it felt at the stage. And I said to my closest friend, we were at a friend of mine's dad's funeral, and I said to her, I want to tell you something. And she looked at me, and she said, oh, what? Is that, they call me Linky, my nickname. She said, is this a moment in life where Linky is about to share something with me and I get to listen? And I look at her like, what sarcastic comment is that? It's like, I'm about to share something really like 5%, and she gives me that like snotty remark. And I said to her, what do you mean? She's like, no, I am always the one sharing, and you are like a closed book. You're always the strong person. Nothing goes ever wrong in your life, and there's nothing that you need to share. And I realized at that moment, with such a strong friend relationship that I have not shown any intimacy to the majority of my friends, because I need to show up as this very strong, independent woman who's got everything under control. And then I reflected on it as well, and I went back to her and I said, so by the way, I don't tell because you don't ask. So intimacy is not just about you divulging information. It's also about you being curious and being willing to take a risk to ask how someone really is doing. Or if you remember, they told you a story a while ago, to ask about that specific incident. So it's not just sharing, it's also you being curious enough and willing to spend time, to take time to ask what's going on in the other person's life. Okay? Does it all make sense to you? Right. So we're getting closer to the end, so you are going to be able to look into GSEA and all of those things. I want to share a few tips with you. And these tips might look extremely obvious, but obvious is often forgotten. And that's why I'm going to share these specific tips with you. So in order to increase, who wanted to increase their credibility? So a few of you. So in order to, you're all sitting together at this table, isn't it? So in order to increase the credibility, and this goes especially if you're young and a student, I want to stress this for you, is have a point of view. Have an opinion and share that opinion. If you are sitting with a question, when someone is busy discussing stuff, ask that question, because that question might change the whole course of decision making and save someone from making a very bad decision. So as long as when you raise your opinion, you raise your point of view, that you are also willing to change it if you do hear other counter arguments. So it's not necessarily just to stand with your own point of view, but raise it, give your opinion, raise your point of view, ask the question. Even if it is about you showing the vulnerability of, I don't really know much about this topic, the fact that you're asking for that question is you doing and you increasing your knowledge. And then the other part is listen to understand. Remember, the part of credibility is to gain more knowledge and being a content expert and being passionate about your topic. So when you are asking more questions, don't just ask for the sake of asking, but ask so that you can really listen and learn from the person of what they have to say. Even if you're really the subject matter expert on the table, there's always something else that you can learn from the person, and that increases your credibility. On the reliability part is be unbelievably responsive. Who's the current learning chair? There you are. How many times do people respond to invites that you send to them for events?
I have to turn up at the house, ring the bell. That's good.
Put them out of bed.
That's how you got me.
Guys, and this is, again, it happens all over EO, and I use it as an example because I'm the learning chair myself, and it is so frustrating. Unbelievably responsive means someone sends you something, is have the decency to reply as an example. if it's an invite and you can't make it, don't just delete it. Then say, decline. That is what I mean by be unbelievably responsive. If someone has asked you something, is to then, you might not execute it immediately, but you can certainly say, I'm on it. And that is a professional skill that we have forgotten, is to show the other person that you have heard the message, that you've heard the instruction. Or even if it is a team member saying to you, I need something, is that you acknowledge it. But often us as founders also, we're so flippin' busy and we go, ugh, I'll deal with that later. Not letting the member know, just a yes or no so that they can continue with their own work. That's what I mean by be unbelievably responsive. And then be precise on delivery. I was told last night, maybe it's a Lahore thing, that the culture is to overpromise and underdeliver. Is that the case? Yes. Okay. Do you overpromise so you can get the deal and then you underdeliver? Okay. So in South Africa, the tendency in order to get to the deal, in order to impress, is to underpromise and then overdeliver. That's, I don't know which one is right. Maybe not, neither is right. But when we speak about trustworthiness, is that we are very precise on delivery. If you are under-promising and over-delivering, all we are doing, whether it's a client, whether it is for friends, again, whether it is for husband, for wife, it really doesn't matter. It's not just a business thing. But if you're under-promising and you over-deliver, all that you are doing is you're educating the person that you're engaging with that they can expect they can expect more from you every single time. And then the one time that you really only, that you give your all, you cannot physically give anything further, they still expect more. Because you educated them that they can always expect more from you. And that's why we say be precise on delivery. If you are over-promising and under-delivering, yeah, I'm not sure how long they're going to stay your client for. I guess if you're the monopoly, then that's a different story. But even then, if you're on the other side, who always gets the bad end, where someone promises something to you and the non-delivery is towards you, again, think about the trustworthiness equation. It's like, oh, great company, but yeah, the moment there's another competitor, I'll go to that one because you can't trust these guys. I'm just with them because I have to be with them. No one wants to work like that. I want to be with this company as a service provider or as a client because I trust them. So I just want you to think about that. Don't be the company where someone is just waiting for a competitor to come on board. Okay. And then for intimacy, we've spoken a bit about this already. The easiest way to increase intimacy is to comment on your own feelings. And feelings doesn't always, again, it doesn't have to be deep, it doesn't have to be the crying factor. It's just things like, oh my goodness, I'm actually so frustrated. Just that statement is already stepping into intimacy, emotional intimacy and not necessarily operational intimacy. You can also comment on someone else's feelings and things. I can say, sure, I might be wrong, but you look quite under pressure, are you okay? That statement, yes, I'm taking a risk, because he might say, no, there's nothing wrong with me. I'm like, okay, well, I'm glad to hear that at least. It's about having a conversation with someone.
Just a small comment on the concept of intimacy. We were having a conversation with one of our mentors yesterday in the office. And she basically, so I'm personally an HR professional, and she basically said that if you want to connect with your employees and you want to connect with your team and you think you don't have enough time to basically connect with everyone, just sit with them in a room and ask them how you're doing. And there will be an awkward silence, but you let that awkward silence stay in the room for some time. And eventually they will start talking after a couple of minutes. So I think
as a facilitator, awkward silences is one of our magic tools. Someone's going to start talking sometime. So if you can be comfortable with awkward silence, it absolutely does have an impact. Yeah. So it's around comment and ask, on feelings. And the other thing is, like I said earlier, when I said to my friend, you know what, I might not share, but you don't ask. So ask, take the time to ask someone. And I want to go further than what you said. It's not just about how are you, but take the time to actually think, what type of conversations have you had with this person before? And what questions can you ask to the person about conversations long ago? How are you? Or, yeah, how's your day? For some people, it's not like, oh, you're just basically saying hello. All right. So really take time to think about the type of questions that you can ask. And then on self-interest. So it says there, practice thinking out loud. Again, this needs to be in context because depending on your client relationships and all of those things. But I'll give you an example of myself. When I'm engaging with a client and we're doing a needs analysis, I'm already saying, in fact, I did it with you earlier. I'm already saying, okay, you know what, having listened to you, maybe what we can do is we can first do a personality profile and then we can start off with a 2-day workshop. Actually, I also want to do a culture survey right in the beginning. So I'm being quite open with my thoughts. It's because the person can then see the journey that I'm going on. And when I'm sending the proposal, it's not all brand new. Again, you have to think a little bit around how much do you want to divulge. But take the journey on, or take the person on your thinking journey. And that will decrease the self-interest because they can hear that you are really thinking about what it is that they've said to you. And not, how much cash am I going to get in the bank? Okay. And then the last thing, which is my favorite. If you ask a question, to your point, is to shut up and listen. And I really want you to think about how many times do you ask a question of your team, or of your husband, or of your wife, where you ask the question, and then you answer it for them. Yeah, you all do it. So it's about asking a question and then really be quiet and give the person an opportunity to think about it and then answer it. Some people take time to process before they can come up with an answer. And other people know the answer immediately. For example, introverts, they think to speak. They first need to think about their answer because they want to be thoughtful around it. Extroverts, we speak to think. We need to speak and then things work in our brains and then we can eventually come up with what it is that we want to say. So just give every single person the opportunity to process the question so that they can answer you. Okay. So those are very, very basic and obvious tips, but like I say, very, very often forgotten. So there's literally just a few more slides left, and this is all about action. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to inform you. The statement is knowledge is power, right? That's BS. Action is power. There's no point in you knowing new stuff, learning information, and like expanding your knowledge if you're not going to do anything about it. And on that, because of the action, you all have the book, which is fantastic. And if you haven't read it, I hope you will. But that QR code, if you want to, it's also going to be in the email in the talk deck, so you don't have to do it right now. But that is the QR code to our newsletter. It's not a selling newsletter. It's not a self-interest newsletter. It is a credibility newsletter. But it's literally based on tips and tricks like tonight, and like the things that are in the book. Just about things that you can physically implement within your business and within your teams. Tips on communication or on personality profiling, all of those things. So if you receive it, you're more than welcome to scan it and just sign up for the newsletter. That's the first thing. I'll give you a second to. No, go for it, yeah, that's fine. Right. So now there's 4 things that I need you to do apart from signing up for the newsletter. 4 things. The first one is to assess your own trustworthiness, and for those who are leading teams and for those who are leading families, I suggest you do it for your teams too. Assess your own trustworthiness and speak about it. But you can even give feedback to each other around the trustworthiness, how you identify someone or how you experience someone else. So it's about giving feedback and ask for feedback around how people perceive you in the trustworthiness. The second thing that I want you to do is to take ownership. Don't fool yourself and say that you're credible when you actually know that you're not and you need to increase it. So take ownership of where you are at and the feedback that you received from your teams in terms of how they perceive you or from your family members, and then identify what it is that you are going to do. You already basically did this whole exercise in this room, but I now want you to go and do it in writing it down and for every single aspect of the trust equation. So it's assess your own trustworthiness, take ownership, and the third one is start using the language. The more you're going to use the language, the more it's going to be front of mind for you the whole time. And it becomes quite easy then to give feedback. So I can then easily say to you, you know what, I must admit, I wasn't happy with what happened, and all of a sudden I feel that your credibility has dropped. Or I can say, you know, this is the 5th time that you are late. I honestly can't trust your reliability anymore. You can speak in that language, and it doesn't become offensive. People don't take so much, or they don't go on the defensive that much if they know the language. Use it in your forums, especially if you hear someone using the words always, never, no one. Those kind of things. The more you're going to speak about it, the more skilled you are going to get in it. And I said there's 4 things. The 4th thing that I want you to do is I have developed, so the book is 12 chapters. I have developed an online course which has 12 modules. But then of course there's people that can't handle 12 modules because they get distracted. So I took the 12 chapter or the 12 course and I broke it down into smaller courses, like short courses. And the one course is called Create an Engaged Workspace, where we speak about the trust equation. And that's a short course, and I want you to download it because I'm going to give it to you for free for every single person in the room. And what that course entails, it's me explaining very quickly what does it mean in order to create an engaged workspace and the trust equation. It's got an agenda so that you can run the trust equation session with your own team, and then you can teach them how to run it with their teams, and it's got a slide deck with it, similar to the one that you've just seen. So I want you to that's your 4th action step. So I want you to access the course and physically do this activity with your team. And that is the action part. If you're not going to do it, you've just gained extra knowledge, great. If you are going to do this, you can start talking about the trust equation within your teams. Okay? And that will hopefully make sure that you can also ditch mediocrity. Something that I'm obsessed about. That's it, guys. Thank you very much. I believe we have to do a quick dial in to GSEA. Otherwise, we would have done another activity, but I do want to give the room to someone else as well. And of course, I'm here for dinner, so afterwards, please come with all your questions or all your comments. I love engaging, and thank you so much for taking part and for being here and listening to me.
Well, we've got...
Come back. Who would like to maybe just share one thing that they are going to do differently from this discussion that you've had? Anyone would like to share an action step that they want to do differently? Do you want to share? Hold on.
So,
opportunity I didn't want to lose out on. So thank you very much, and we're looking forward to all the support we can get for GSCA in the coming year from all our members and our prospects as well. Thank you.